program do not necessarily reflect that of radio station WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, its staff and management, or our sponsors. WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, retains the right to record all phone calls received during this program for future promotions.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Inform the Vote NJ Radio Hour here on Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT in Vineland. My name is Steven Soloff, and tonight we have Assemblyman Erik Simonsen, who will call in just a few minutes. But as usual, I'll start with my introductory report to help set the tone and give a little update for those following along. And for those new to the platform or tuning in for the first time, let me briefly remind you of what we're about. 2 years ago, I was just like many voters out there, curious about the candidates and issues on my ballot. I Googled, as you would expect, but found little. I spent weeks trying to get in touch with local candidates, only to realize that the local paper had all but shut down, leaving a huge gap in coverage. It wasn't until I spoke with Vineland Mayor Anthony, who pointed me in the right direction, that I started making progress. Fast forward to today, and Inform the Vote NJ is still here, still pushing to get Cumberland County's political scene up to the modern standards that we should expect in the digital age. This project, which started as an information hub, has grown into something a bit more involved. What was originally intended as a simple website to compile the candidate details I had trouble finding now includes things like comprehensive questionnaires, radio show interviews, podcast sessions, and sometimes event coverage, all designed to help voters make informed decisions. Now, I should acknowledge that not every candidate has been on board from the start. Some have been hesitant or even pushed back. But as I often say, if anyone doesn't like the coverage, they're welcome to create their own content, and I'll happily share it on the site. That's how we move forward and build transparency. So, despite the challenges, I'm proud of where we've gotten in 2 years, and I'm especially proud to see candidates like Assemblyman Simonsen, who is further embracing the spirit of transparency and improving their online presence. What was once a vague listing on the Cumberland County Republican site is now evolving into a dedicated top-tier campaign website at assemblyld1.com, which, as I was reviewing information to prepare for today's interview, it looks like they're updating it daily, which shows some dedicated progress. It includes a well-detailed bio, a newsletter, and numerous press releases, all of which provide voters and the press with more than enough material to start evaluating Simonsen and his ticket mate, Antoine McClellan, without having to accidentally bump into them at the county fair. That being said, while the website is great for voters who prefer text-based information, there's still an important role for audio and video formats. Not everyone has the time or desire to dig through campaign websites. People like to hear the candidates speak directly, to see body language, hear tone, and experience the conversation in a different way. That's why today's interview is so important. While it might seem repetitive for those who have already seen the Assemblyman's site or met him in person, this format allows voters to hear the message directly in the Assemblyman's own words. This will be a resource for voters who are curious but might not be tuning in at the moment or aren't political event regulars to visit Inform the Vote NJ platform for future reference on their own schedule. Now, as a reminder, we'll be diving deeper into some of the more pressing questions during our podcast-style conversation later in the season. Take abortion policy, for example. Since the transfer of abortion rights from the federal government to the states, it's become a point of intense debate. Many candidates like Assemblywoman Carolyn Rush and gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli have made their positions clear. So why shouldn't the voters hear it from the Assemblyman himself before the rumors start swirling? Whether his stance aligns with Ciattarelli's reasonable compromise or something more extreme, voters deserve to know. And remember, that's just one issue. We're here to clarify all of the major topics, which is exactly what the later podcast interview will be about. Lastly, I want to emphasize the organic nature of this process. Just last week, I was invited onto a few local radio shows. First by Commissioner Albrecht, then by Steve Statz, and then unexpectedly, Tony Centeno joined in, invited me on his show. These spontaneous interactions are what push the conversation forward. Sure, a polished politician might prefer I not engage with every disgruntled politico or go down the rabbit hole of long-forgotten political feuds, but it's part of the reality of what we're doing. Those conversations could easily happen anywhere in public. I just happen to be on a particular path. So I'm not here to dive deep into old scandals or unresolved lawsuits. I'm here to gather and document the information that every voter should have access to, without the typical political games. And that brings us back to the original purpose of Inform the Vote NJ, to make this all available to you, the voter. Whether you're a casual voter or someone who digs a bit deeper into the issues, this platform is here to make it easier. Now, let's get on to the conversation with Assemblyman Erik Simonsen. Eric, you on the air?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Steve?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
So,
grab me on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for calling in. I very much appreciate it. The more I get involved with all of this stuff, the more I realize how busy you guys are. You're always at an event somewhere. You're advocating for something. A lot of you guys have day jobs, and that's all aside from actually showing up to Trenton and doing the legislation.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm probably the only one that's been up there since the budget passed, because we had a committee for our state local government, and we passed, it was a 10-hour session.
Wow.
Committee for the Anti-Semitism Bill, which we did. I'm glad to say we did get it passed unanimously, and I will say my opponent, Karen Rush, opposed it. I don't know why, but yeah, it was a long day. I think there were 250 people that testified.
Oh wow! Could you unpack that for me, because that is one of those things that, you know, I've been reviewing your site and reviewing a bunch of things going on, but I haven't had the time to pay attention specifically to that.
So it's a bill that's been around for a while, you know, and through, luckily it was amended, and we used the Senate version, which took out, there was one section I didn't agree with, and I think that was the big problem most people had with it, was that it said that you couldn't, if you criticized the Israeli government, that was anti-Semitism, which obviously we all know that's freedom of speech. We criticize our own government.
Sure.
So that was taken out, and I believe that led the way to passing it. And it's basically based on, you know, a lot of the students that are college students that are harassed and can't go to class, or you know, or kept from their studies and things like that. So without getting too deep into it, I mean, that was the gist of it. And like I said, it passed unanimously with Republican and Democrat support.
Yeah, and you know, to relate it to my own viewing of political happenings over the past 10 years, and having personal friends who maybe were more informed about all this stuff than me in the past, I'm glad that you guys seem to have been able to agree and cooperate and move in that direction, because, you know, it's one thing when you hear about peaceful protests, or you know, you watch a movie like PCU and it almost sounds like a joke. But then you see it happening in real time.
It's playing out, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and then having to have some of those conversations with my more politically involved friends, and it's like, it's almost like they've lost the distinction between what reasonable protest and intentional agitation, or, you know, with that Riley Gaines situation, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they like literally hold her hostage on campus?
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. And I just want to clarify, we passed it through the committee, so it still has to come to the floor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
and then obviously get signed in. But it looks, I believe I'll have. But I will say, I got a chance to talk because it was in two of my committees, and I met some of the Muslim leaders from up north, and we had some great conversations. And listen, we're willing to do an anti-Muslim bill as well if that came across.
You mean to protect those people as well?
I'd say there's a difference. Hate speech isn't free speech. So
right. Everybody wants to be able to at least go to college and go to class without being harassed.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well then, so to kind of get everything on the record, so to speak, I don't know if you were listening to my introductory report, but part of the idea behind my project is to just make sure there's some type of website that's easily accessible that anybody at any point in time can just go back and review information. And so, I don't know if you already have some type of lengthy background interview type thing, but why don't you lay out in your own words your background and relevant experience so that people reviewing the information on their own time can know how you're particularly qualified and what your particular personality brings to the legislature.
Sure, absolutely. So, born and raised grew up in Cape May and then Lower Township, back and forth throughout my life. I went to Lower Cape May Regional High School, graduated from Trenton State College, which is now TCNJ, and also attended Rutgers for my education administrative classes, and then did my master's at the University of Scranton in educational administration. 32 years in education. I just retired this month. And that was...
Congratulations.
I was a teacher. Thanks. I taught art, and I taught art to elementary kids. I was special needs. I taught music. I was a teacher for 18 years and a supervisor of a school-to-work program for special needs children. Then I went on to be a vice principal at Richard M. Titleman School, which is Lower Cape May Regional School District, and then for 7 years, and then was the athletic director for the last 7, which I enjoyed immensely. I've been an athlete my whole life. I wrestled throughout my life in football, and I did wrestle as a collegiate wrestler in college. I was a head coach for many years, 14, 15 years, down at Lower Cape May. I was at Wildwood for a little bit. And I continue. I'm an endurance athlete. I love sports. I do 100-mile bike races in the mountains and triathlons and all that other stuff. Because, you see a lot of people out there. And then, as far as my personal, other personal stuff, I got involved in politics. I was asked to run for council in Lower Township by a friend of mine who was on the council. I ran and got elected back in, I want to say 2009 or 10. I think it was 10. And when I had a young family, we sold our house. I had to give up my seat because we went to another ward. I ran there and won that ward. So, and then after serving for, I guess it was like 5 years, 6 years on council, they asked me to run for mayor, and I was elected mayor. Until I was approached to run for assembly back in 2019. And along with Senator Testa and Assemblyman McClellan, we got elected and started 2020, just in time for the pandemic to hit.
Yay!
So, along with that, I'm a deacon at my local church here, historic Macedonia Baptist Church, which is in Cape May. It's one of the oldest black churches in South Jersey. It's also the home of the Harriet Tubman Museum. And I'm a proud member. I've been a deacon there for almost 30 years. And as far as government now at the State House, I'm on State and Local Government Committee, which I love because obviously as a former mayor and councilman. I'm on Education, which is 32 years in education. I'm actually the longest sitting member on the Assembly Education Committee. And I'm in Community Development and Women Affairs. I also sit on a committee with Senator Testa. It's a joint committee with the Senate for Public Schools. And I am on the Disabilities Caucus also. Obviously, many years helping out those with special needs. So that's in a nutshell. I think, And I'm a professional musician. I play out a lot. I had like 4 albums out with my band, and my kids' album, I was considered for a Grammy back in 2009, I think it was. So that was a pretty neat experience, going out to the Grammys. And did a lot of kid music in my day, obviously teaching music to young people. But yeah, it's I just retired from the education, and well, for now, I mean, there's other opportunities coming up, but concentrating on the assembly and playing a little music.
Great. Let me dive into a couple of things there. I taught music myself for quite a while, and I taught ESL, and then I moved into programming a little bit. And one of the things that comes to my mind is when you have a lot of years in education, at least from my perspective, you get quite good at learning how to present information to people who might not get it yet. You know, whether you're teaching music to a novice guitar player or teaching English to a Chinese kid who's never even seen a white person before, you have to find different ways to get the message across and hopefully actually transfer the information and make sure the student walks away with the skill set that you're trying to impose upon them. Do you find any of that skill set coming across in the legislature?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, and I taught special needs kids. I had, we had early intervention, which I did, kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, all the way up to high school, and then over 21 program. So I had every type of disability there was, from high-functioning autistic to, the kids with more diverse special needs, very severe and profound. I did with severe and profound classes as well. And then I also had the kids in the alternative school, which, like you, I taught multimedia and guitar. They actually learned guitar. It was one, like you said, it's a great way to get through to those kind of kids. Mm-hmm. And, I found I taught music, but I couldn't call myself a music therapist because I don't have a music therapist degree, but that's basically what I was doing. Because when you have a classroom, a full classroom, whether they're autistic or, like I said, severe and profound, you have to get very creative in how you present things and how you teach, and so they get something out of it and learn something. So it was. I loved it because I'm a creative person. I mean, I would come up with all kinds. That's why I wrote a lot of the songs for my classes, because you can't just go out and find songs that go with everything. I mean, I used everything from any kind of instrument. I had puppets. I had all kinds of whatever worked, man. It was like juggling, puzzle pieces and putting them together, and got good at it and had a great career at it.
Sure. And then can you think of maybe an example of how that helped you in the assembly?
Well, yeah, absolutely, especially in the committees, because a lot of people don't know, but when you're in the committee, you vote on all types of bills depending on what the subject matter is. So you have to, when you speak on a bill, you don't want to just. I never have anything written in front of me, which is unique because most people have a written, prepared statement. I don't roll that way. Mm-hmm. For one, my eyes aren't the greatest, so I wouldn't be able to read it anyway. And I'm an auditory learner, so
sure.
And I take from life experience. So, if the bill comes across whatever it may be, I vote with my heart, and a lot of that is through the experiences that I've had through teaching, and to get your point across to not just the people that are there to testify or listen in, but your other legislators as well, to get the point across. I think you said it earlier, but you just need that communication skills are very key, and I found that throughout my education career, whether it's dealing with teachers, I supervise teachers, coaches, students, obviously, athletes, whoever it may be. You have to learn very good communication skills.
Gotcha. And then you were talking about how you were a coach, and I think your ticket mate, McClellan, is also a coach, and it looked like you guys recently passed or maybe it hasn't passed yet, but at least introduce some type of legislation to help make sure people or teachers who are engaged in extracurricular activities receive some type of compensation for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was a prime sponsor, myself and Benji Wimberly, who was with us in the Assembly. Now he's over at the Senate on the Democrat side. Benji also, he's runs athletics up in Patterson. So, and Antoine being a longtime coach, he's a co-sponsor as well. But yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. I mean, I wish it was around when I was coaching, but I try to help out my constituents and the people. They put a lot of time in, and I'm sure people listening can relate. Like, coaches, if you looked at the amount of money they get paid and the time, the good coaches, the amount of time that they put in, they probably don't break even, to be honest with you, between the extra hours, gas money, time away from your families. But, you know, it's you're helping the kids, or you have a purpose, you know, and you're trying to prepare future learners, you know, and prepare people to be successful young women and men. So, yeah, it's a great bill. It actually passed the Senate and the Assembly, and we're just waiting. Hopefully the governor will sign it very soon and get that rolling, I'm hoping. So.
Oh, yeah, that's great. And, you know, it's making me think of a talking point that I bring up, and a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say it, but I've been following around this local politics stuff for a while, and you know, sometimes it gets really easy to criticize the politicians or the elected representatives. But, you know, if you're looking at somebody who's on the Vineland School Board, they don't get paid anything. Or if you look at the Millville City Commission, the last time I checked, I think those guys get paid something like $9,000 a year. And after you do the math, they don't even make minimum wage doing it. And so I always try to, I guess, humble the overly critical constituent. Not that people can't have their opinions or whatever, but just like a little reality check, like, well, maybe we could pay them a little bit better so that they could focus on just that, and then you wouldn't have like these moonlighting type situations or what have you.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. Well, real quick, that bill also, it doesn't just cover coaches. I mean, you've done the multimedia stuff. It's, you know, people that run the theater or the PAC centers, the band, traveling bands, anything that's after hours that's extracurricular, clubs, things of that nature that they get paid for will go towards their pension. So it's not just coaching; it's a wide array of. But I was going to tell you, yeah, when I was on council in Lower, we were the lowest paid municipality in Cape May County, but we're the biggest municipality in Cape May County. So we had the biggest courts. We had the most cases and all that. So in order to get, we couldn't get prosecutors, we couldn't get public defenders, we couldn't get, because of across the board, it wasn't enough. So, you know, it was funny when I ran the first time, they put mailers out that I raised my salary 3 times. Well, I was the lowest paid mayor in the county, and I said, look, we don't do it for the money, especially, you know, I mean, some do maybe, but I never did it for the money. But in order to bring across the board, to bring some of those salaries up, we'd raise it like $2,000 every couple of years, because, like I said, you can't, it's across the board, public works people, you know, the court, all these things, and other towns were paying more, so guess where the people went to work, right? So to improve our quality of the workforce and things like that. So we did it incrementally over time, and at least we were competitive. We're still, I think Lower Townships now, they do a great job there. I think they're still like in the middle of the pack, but you know, it's all relevant, because if you can't get good people to do the jobs because everyone else is paying better, you're in a tough situation.
Oh, sure. And, you know, just thinking about it at the surface level, like, you guys have to even campaign a lot, and it takes money to run a campaign, to build a website, to hire somebody to write your articles or whatever it is you guys need to have funding for. And I see that myself just doing this as a volunteer. You know, lawn signs cost money.
Listen, I mean, the assembly's the worst, because you have to run every 2 years. So I always say I feel sorry for people to get elected and they don't make it past their first term, because you spend a year trying to figure it out.
Right.
And once you get your your traction, you got to start campaigning again. It's ridiculous, and you so much money. I don't know why they don't change that. I mean, we're going to have legislation come up again that we're involved in, but it never passes. But even if it was 3 years, I mean, 2 years is ridiculous. And and back to your point about school board members, God bless them, because like you said, they don't get paid, and there's a lot of them that get beat up pretty good at those meetings. So
yep.
At least as a mayor or council person, you're getting some kind of compensation. But it's all volunteers. But
and then I was reading on your website about, or maybe it was the newsletter, you guys recently, or I think you authored legislation about getting people with disabilities who are in college workforce ready through some type of a guide. Can you explain that a little bit better?
Yeah, well, there's a couple bits of legislation. One that I'm a prime sponsor on is the Youth Build Bill, and that's grant funded programs throughout the state. One is we have a couple in our day. We have Millville's one of them, and it gives money for the disadvantaged kids that teach them work readiness skills and job readiness. And then the other one is for those with disabilities when they go to college, to help them. Like I said, that's a higher ed thing, but we voted that through on the floor to help those with special needs going to college, whether it's accessibility, tax breaks, things like tax credits, things like that.
Yeah, the thing that appealed to me particularly about that, and I'm a musician too, and I went to music college, and not that I have disabilities, but there's this ongoing conversation about higher education and whether certain tracks are actually preparing people to be workforce ready. And I don't want to bash my college too much, but it was kind of a free-for-all, if I'm being honest.
We won't ask where you went, so we'll leave it at that.
Well, let's just say there are particular rumors about this specific college, and you've probably heard them as a professional musician. But there's this running joke. It's like, well, you're kind of at music camp for 4 years, and then you get out into the real world, and half the time you're teaching either basic guitar lessons or joining a typical bar band. And if that's all I was going to do anyway, I could have studied that on my own. But I went to the university so that it would give a proper ROI for the investment. So
yes,
when you frame it in terms of kids with disability, I think it's like a really noble thing. It's like these people, they really need extra help to make sure that they're set up in the right career path without having either wasted 4 years or they have no transition process from the college to the workforce.
Yep. And that bill you're talking about, that's the one. It directs the state to develop a career education guide for those post-secondary students with disabilities. I think I have it here, so 2396, 82396, but exactly what you're talking about, to give them that little extra, they're not thrown into a situation where they can't be successful, It's funny, this year, at opening day at school, they always get like a speaker or a motivational speaker as well. Last year they got he's a piano player, a bar piano player, but exactly to your point, he had studied music his whole life and went through college and got his master's and all this. I think he might even got his doctorate, and now he's playing out of bars because he makes thousands of dollars a night doing the sing-alongs on the piano. And
oh yeah, what do they call that? Like the Howl at the Moon type stuff?
Yeah, and he had a whole shtick to go with it for educators and how you prepare kids and all this stuff. But it was pretty interesting to go through the whole program, and he was teaching how to communicate with kids and how to get through this and that, and then he basically, like you said, he did all that training, and that's what he does. But he loves what he does. I mean, he travels, he makes great money, and he enjoys it. So,
cool.
But, not everyone does that, and like you said, you spend all that money and years learning and studying, and sometimes it's for naught.
Yeah, exactly. So then let's move on a little bit. We just touched on your background and some of the stuff you've been working on. Where do you see your campaign message going for this season moving forward in terms of what do you think needs to happen in Trenton, and maybe what are some of the more important issues that you'd like people to know about that you're going to try and tackle moving forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always say, and I can speak for Antoine and Mike as well, the senator. I mean, I think our body of work speaks for itself. It's hard. We're in the minority, but we're very good at reaching across the aisle. We get along with a lot of the members the ones there's some we got very friendly with, we talk to them about bills, and they respect us, we respect them. And there are some, a lot of them are like-minded like us, and some aren't, not so much. But we've been able to get things done even as in the minority party, which is, people don't know. It's very tough to get anything done. But, we're going to continue, again, our body of work, and that's fighting for our way of life down here. And that's, when we talk about hospitality, the restaurants, the hotels, the boardwalks, our oceans, our bays, we're the only legislative district that has the bay and the ocean and everything in between. We have farmland, a lot in Cumberland County, and and we fight for those people, because it's a lot different. When you hear some of the things that come across our desk, bill-wise, for up north, it's a total different way of life. I know we always joke, it's not really a joke, but we always talk about it should be a North and South Jersey, where do you divide it? But I can guarantee if you divide it somewhere, that legislative District 1 is definitely in South Jersey, because you can't go any further. But, and it's fighting for the small businesses and the family-owned businesses. I mean, I was just up there. There was a bill recently in state and local government, which I spoke out very strongly against, about they're trying to take the tips away, which would have totally crushed the waiters, bartenders, servers, bus people. Not only that, the business owners, because they'd have to pay them $17 an hour instead of giving them the small wage and letting them make the money on the tips. And of course, as you know, down here, a lot of people make a career out of waiting tables or bartending. I mean, you can make some really good money on your tips. You take that away from them. Now the businesses have to pay for the $17 an hour, and now what happens after that? They raise their prices, so the menu prices go up. The cost, everything, all the costs go up, and it gets sent down to the consumer. The people going out to eat or going out to get a glass of wine or beer at a winery or brewery, and that's some of the things that another way of life down here. I mean, there aren't many places up north you can make a living, in the restaurant or hotel. You know what I mean? Like, especially in the summertime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you're generally focused on defending what we need down here in terms of a way of life, whether it's improving the Bayshore or tourism or protecting server tips and incomes. Would you say there's anything else you would want to include in that?
I mean, if we didn't have tourism, we wouldn't have an economy down here, right? So it's that's everyone knows that, and it's look, I grew up down here from the time I was a kid to now. I mean, if you saw this place and you probably have, but when I was a kid, you could go down to Ocean City downtown or Cape May downtown. It's a ghost town after Labor Day, right? Mm-hmm. Until Memorial Day. Now it's year round. I mean, people come down and do weekend getaways. Christmas time's huge down here in all the shore towns because they're all decorated. I say Cape May because that's where the Victorian houses are lit up and there's all kinds of activities going on. And even Wildwood isn't just the summer anymore. It's that's our way of life. And for a long time, I forget what the numbers. I'd have to ask the county again. But at one point when we were running it, we send we sent $600 million up to Trenton. We got $1 million back. I think it's up to 700 now, and it's
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's wrong. I mean, we need more of that money coming back to our businesses and our taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean,
we've been working on that with some of the legislation that we have. So
this seems to be a common theme when I talk to people in the county. Even like the planning board type stuff, they're trying to coordinate with Cape May County to build up overall tourism in the region, which I think will help. Even things like that new golf course over in Vineland will probably help with that. And I guess that would help encourage more hotels and more restaurants and all that kind of stuff. Like a snowball effect for economic development.
Absolutely. People don't realize the agriculture down there. Cumberland County, if you go out to Cedarville, I mean, the Jersey Fresh is there. It's one of the largest farms. They supply, I think they're one of the first or second largest supplier on the Northeast United States. I mean, when we were there, they were doing broccoli. Was it harvest earlier than the other stuff? But they make everything, like every type of vegetable. They do fruits too. And we got to tour the processing plant with everybody working. It's amazing. It's funny now that you go, like I pay attention when I go out to the grocery store. Like Jersey Fresh is doing a lot of stuff with that you see in the supermarket. But that's just one example. I mean, we have those places that people don't even know are here. And to be honest with you, we need more of those places. We need to keep them around instead of building on top of them and things like that, like up in Cranberry and some of these other places.
Oh, right. I heard about that story. Is that the farm that they're trying to eminent domain or whatever it is they're doing up there?
Yeah, for affordable house, because they passed this stupid affordable housing legislation, which, look, we're all for affordable housing or workforce housing we call workforce housing. We need it down here. But, you can't just take away farms and eminent domain them and just so you can build it. I think, again, that should be left up to the municipality because, look, I'll tell you, for example, we have Estelle Manor we have 3 little municipalities from Atlantic County in our district, which is Estelle Manor, Corbin City, and Weymouth. And I'm an avid cyclist. I ride up through there all the time, almost weekly. And I'll give you Estelle Manor, 70% of that municipality is taken by the DEP. They can't do anything. They can't build anything. They can't put any business, nothing. So, their frustration is how do you balance a budget when you have no pathway for further revenue? So what do? You have to raise taxes, right? There's no. So and there's a lot of towns like that. I think Woodbine is the same. I forget, or Dennis Township. I'm sorry, Dennis Township is very high. It might be 60% DEP, and it's, look, I'm all for the environment, but it's somewhere you got to, sometimes it gets, there's a lot of overreach,
Yeah, you've always got to find proper balance points for anything you're doing, especially because I'm probably preaching to the choir. As soon as you try to implement something, everybody's got an opinion about it. So, yeah, you can't just have willy-nilly rules and regulations that prevent people from just developing.
Absolutely.
So usually I bring up a couple of advocacy proposals, and I already ran this by McClellan, but just to be consistent, let's briefly go over that. So with my website over the past couple years, I've noticed a couple of problems, and one thing is people around my age, especially around here, I know it might be different in different districts, but when I first started trying to pay attention to local politics, I would be asking very basic questions like, what even is a county surrogate? And what do they do? And why would I care if a Republican surrogate is in office or a Democrat surrogate? So, there's a lot of fundamental things that maybe I could have learned in school, but now I feel like I'm kind of playing catch up with. How do you feel about the general idea of trying to push civics and local civics into school curriculum, not just as like an extracurricular activity, but more like this is a basic life skill that pretty much every citizen should know how to navigate. How do you feel about going in that direction?
Yeah, listen, you're preaching to the choir, and I can tell. I couldn't tell you how many. I wish I had a dollar for every time someone asked me what an assemblyman is. You know, so I'm like, look, you know, the House of Representatives. You know, I try to give them a quick. I said that's federal. I said it's the same thing, only it doesn't go by population. Every district, legislative district, I try to explain the states. You know, divide up into 40, and each district gets one senator and 2 assembly people to represent them, and we're the assembly, which is basically the House of Rep. I don't, you know, assembly thing goes back to revolutionary times, so I get it. But yeah, you're right. And I mean, look, I'm an educator. I think, you know, reintroducing civics, that should be a top priority. I mean, and that's the problem with trying to implement all these other things that aren't really educational as far as, you know, when you talk about reading, writing, you know, the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic, you know, it's not that.
Right.
I mean, introducing civics is one of the most important things we can do to strengthen our democracy. I mean, it's, you know, I've seen how much difference that it makes when students understand the government works, how it works. Mm-hmm. And people are more likely to go out and vote and to participate, like you said, in local municipalities or school boards, right? Mm-hmm. Some school boards, they have trouble getting members, you know, because people don't want to go in and get beat up when they're trying to help kids.
I just saw that on the Excel sheet from the county clerk the other day. It's like 2 unfilled positions and nobody's running. It's like, oh, should I move to that district and just volunteer as tribute?
Yeah, what district? Is that Vine? I know Vine.
I'd have to look it up, but there's a couple within Cumberland County that look like there's just going to be unfilled seats, or at least, you know, it's only August. Maybe somebody will step up, but as of right now.
I think state government too, because, you know, like I said, it's tough to get people to go. You can't just say go vote. Why do we need to vote? Why does it matter? Especially in a state, you know, too many people get all their information from CNN, Fox News, NBC, whatever it is. I mean, and it's all the national stuff, and I don't think they understand how the local municipalities work. Right? Yep. They don't understand what, you know. They know they get their trash picked up. They don't know that it's Public Works that does it, or recreation, or, you know, all the things that go with like I think you mentioned it before, you know, when you go before planning and zoning. Well, what the heck is planning and zoning? Right. You know, if you wanted to build a house, you'd understand, or you wanted to build a business, you would have to understand. So,
and to chime in on that, you know, when I first started doing this, I was showing up to the planning and zoning board meetings, and there was a little bit of mixture of like, well, why is any of this important to me? Yeah. And then I tried to ask for
sleep a couple of times, right?
What? Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of felt like it, but I did my best to stay awake. But then I would ask clarification questions like, so can you guys like explain to me exactly what's going on here, and is any of it important? And then there, you know, I got an implication that I was just at the wrong meeting, like, and it was so now I'm taking time out of my day to go do something to be more informed, and I'm being told this is like not the most appropriate place for you to be, and it's like, well, maybe somebody should have taught me that in high school.
And listen, you could get appointed to planning and zoning or something like that, and guess how much money you get for that?
0.
You're fine, yeah. So MUA boards, they don't get much. We have our own MUA in Lara Township, but yeah, I mean, you're right, and like I said, you know, I'm going to start a business, and I got this piece of property, and then if you've never been taught, you know, that you have to actually get, you know, permits and variances and stuff, you know, people don't know, and it's like I said, I don't know. Antoine can tell you. I mean, all right, senator, they know it's, of course, they get the senator mixed up with, you know, Cory Booker or federal, you know, like it's different. And
how's Washington, D.C., Senator Testa?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I haven't been there lately, but yeah. So what is the assembly, and then they get the senator mixed up with the, you know. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, and I know we've been pushing legislation and just we haven't got. Look, we need a change at the top. I would say that till beat a dead horse, but I just think I know Jack Ciattarelli. He comes down in our area all the time, which is I've never seen that before out of any candidate for governor or any governor for that matter.
Right.
He's here. He understands the way of life down here, and I just think it's so important. And we need a change, man. We really do. And I don't. Mike and Cheryl isn't any different than Murphy, and it's. I think we need to. We need to go in another direction, and there's a lot of things that I think we could accomplish. I know we could accomplish if we had,
that level of coordination.
But there's still a lot of stuff we're working on. We work with Congressman Van Drew on a lot of stuff. It goes with the job, and we put a lot of time and a lot of work into it. And we have great staff. That's the other thing. Like people don't realize the most important part is your constituent service. I mean, we're lucky because I think we may be the only legislators now because some of them didn't get reelected or didn't run again, but they share offices. We have an office in Vineland. Mm-hmm. We have an office in Cape May Courthouse, so we can kind of cover both areas. They're an hour away, right? And that way we can cover. People don't even realize, I mentioned Cedarville or, Estelle Manor or some of those places in Cumberland County, Fortescue. You're talking, for them to get to Cape May Courthouse for a meeting, you're talking over an hour, some of them. We have Bridgeton in our district now. So it's nice to have, we kind of cover both sides of the district. And our staff is phenomenal. I say it because we've been told by many people that we have the best constituent services, in the state. And that's helping people. Which people don't realize, when during COVID was unbelievable. Some of these other district offices weren't even open. And so we were getting calls from other legislative districts that our people were helping them out because they had these people were desperate, man. They weren't getting their unemployment. They weren't getting paid. They couldn't pay whether it was their rent or their mortgage. I mean, it was horrible. MVCs were closed. Division of Motor Vehicles were closed. And, now we came up with, we do a mobile unit to get the real ID and licenses and whatever.
Oh, okay. I did see some posts about that from the senator, and I was like, I wonder why this is particularly important. And you've kind of connected that dot for me.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I had it myself. My daughter went to get her registration or for her new car, whatever, and we had to drive all the way to Manahawk. So certain motor vehicles only do certain things. Mm-hmm. Like they might do your license, but not do your registration, or they might do your registration, and it's frustrating for people, man, when you got to drive from, North Cape May to Manahawk, or actually I had to go to Runnymede for my daughter.
Wow.
So when I have one right here across town,
Right.
But yeah, our constituent service, I mean, whether someone, they need help with their nursing license, they need to find out what other classes they need to become a teacher. I don't know. There's a million different, and our staff works all day tirelessly just helping people. It's great.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple more questions. Let me throw this one out at you. Maybe we'll try to keep it brief so I can get to one more after that. So the second advocacy thing I usually push for is to try and have the counties do part of the role that I'm doing, as in with the collapse of local press, we had a little bit of a gap there with candidate coverage during elections. What do you think about the idea of when a candidate submits their signatures, then the county or the municipality just hands them like a packet of questions and an opportunity to do neutral press-related interviews, kind of like what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And that way it's just kind of done by default.
No, I think it's a great idea. Listen, I mean, you don't necessarily, what is qualified when you're running for those things? Well, people want to know, why are you qualified? Why am I going to vote for you? And I mean, that's a simple way to do it. And like you said, with the diminishing amount of papers daily, pretty much to go out of business, I'm still old school. I like to read a paper,
Mm-hmm.
and as an athletic director, my parents love to see their kids name or picture in the paper for something, it means a lot to a parent, and that's kind of going away. It's all digital now. And I think that's the way it's going. There's nothing you can do about it. But you have grandparents and older, grandparents and elderly that aren't as, computer savvy or whatever. So, no, I think it's a great idea, and it would, I think it would expose a lot of the people that run for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Right? So, I made that short for you.
Cool, thank you. And then I'm going to offer up to kind of set the tone of what a follow-up interview might look like, and just in the interest of being fair and not trying to catch you off guard, are you game for doing a slightly pressing question?
Sure.
All right, so one of the things that kind of piqued my interest when I started looking at all this a couple years ago, it was the year that Roe v. Wade got overturned, and so everything regarding reproductive rights went from the federal level down to the states. And then I was looking around and realized, you had a guy like Charles LaSpada, who was the ghost candidate that was running against Senator Testa, and you couldn't get any information about where that guy might stand on something that is one of the most polarizing issues in the nation. So the question that I have is, we've got Jack Ciattarelli's 5-point plan, which is on his site, and then you've got people like Mikey Sherrill trying to run these, I guess you can call them attack ads or suggestive ads, whatever you want to call them. Could you lay out in somewhat detail where you stand on that issue?
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, well, first of all, I do agree with the states. Though I think a lot of things should be left to the states, right? Just like I think statewide, a lot of things should be left to the obviously not this issue that we're talking about, but there's a lot of issues that should be left to the local municipalities. But I've been steadfast in my stance. I mean, obviously I'm a deacon at a church. My wife was labor and delivery for 20 years. I'm pro-life, but I understand there are situations where it's a necessity, and obviously if it's the life of the mother, and I mean, I can waver a bit, but I'm pro-life. I mean, there's no other way to put it, really. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that the third trimester thing is just beyond I can't wrap my head around that. If you haven't decided, I don't know. I think we get into a whole other slippery slope there, but it's it's wrong, but listen, that's why there's different states, different strokes for different folks, to put it mildly. But it's a huge question, and it's one that I mean, I've always had the same opinion, so I don't mind you asking me. I'm not going to change that.
Well, I guess where I'm coming from is I wouldn't know that because it's not on the site, or it was briefly addressed, I guess, on Senator Testa's site. But now that Jack's doing his plan, would you say that you're comfortable with Jack's sort of reasonable compromise plan, or would you want it to go further than that? Or
well, here's another thing. I think if someone like Jack, when he gets elected, he's someone you can talk to about that. But yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I mean, we don't put up our site because it's right now it's a done deal, right? It's the law. So,
sure. Yeah.
I've made my stance known on the floor. I know, or when we voted on stuff. So I voted against it, but majority rules, and we're democracy, so you got to live with it. And just like President Trump gave the state the power, New Jersey chose to go that route, and we have to live with that, and we have to respect the law, rule law. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, then I appreciate you clarifying that. And it looks like we only got about 2 minutes left. Is there anything else you might want to briefly say that we haven't touched on today that you want to make sure voters know?
I just think that, again, look at our voting records. They speak for themselves. I mean, you find out a lot about a person with their voting record, what they're about. But it's always great to talk to people like you and get out there and listen. Like you, I mean, I play out at all kinds of restaurants and bars. I we travel with this Cape Atlantic League. I've probably been to every school in Cape May, Cumberland, and Atlantic County and beyond, most in the state. So I see so many people at athletic events, and I know Antoine does too. People talk about campaigning. I'm like, I see more people in a week playing at a couple bars and being at athletic events than if you knocked on doors for a month. So, and I love knocking on doors too. I like people, right? You can't run. You can't campaign if you don't like people. And listen, sometimes you get to a door and you got to answer the tough questions, right?
Sure.
Or people don't care for you very much, but respectfully, you say thank you and you go on to the next one. So it's all about respect. And listen, we just got to respect each other. That's all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, if you're putting your name on the ballot and you're asking for people's votes, you got to talk to them for a little while.
Listen, you signed up for this, right? I signed up for this, so it comes with the territory, Mm-hmm. And I remember when my wife came to one of our council meetings. This was before I was mayor. It was ugly in Lower Township. We finally cleaned it up and got rid of the nonsense. But she come home, she goes, "No wonder you need a drink when you come." Like, why would you even do that to yourself? I'm like, yeah, well, that's why I'm doing it, so we can change. And we did make change, and now it's everything. It's all good. But someone, you can sit on the couch and complain, or you can get out there and do something about it, right?
Yeah. And as somebody who's worked in the bars, probably, maybe not as much as you, but quite a bit, you get used to those kinds of conversations. It's like you're there all the time. What are you going to do on break? Just kind of sit in the corner, or are you going to talk to people?
You get to know the issues that people really care about.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not out there talking to people, whether it's positive or negative, or things they're complaining about, you don't know. That's where we get ideas for bills. That's where we try to push legislation to help people, because you talk to people and you find out what their needs are. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's not about us. It's about the people that elected us, people that voted for us or didn't vote for us, either way. So.
Yep. All right. Well, we are at the end of the interview. Thank you very much, Assemblyman Simonsen. I know you guys are busy, and the information is not only helpful to me, but to our audience. So, again, thank you very much for carving out an hour for me.
Awesome, Steve. Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. Be well.
Bye.
God bless.
And good night, everybody. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. for Inform the Vote Radio Hour at Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT in Vineland.
Want to know the secret to what makes Rita's Water Ice so delicious? Did you know that Rita makes their ice fresh every